Salutations fam, this is Arim from HaltessiaGaming, and in today's video, I'm going to be doing a deck profile of a Cyberstorm Access format deck profile for Dragon Link that I've played over the last couple of weeks or so, give or take. Um, and there's not really anything I don't think there's anything new in the list. Yeah, it's more so just like, I've adapted the list to accommodate the format that I've been playing in. I don't have any of the new synchros or anything like that. But pretty much, it's just Dragon Link. But I've just adapted it to the current format along with some deck building philosophies that I've been applying to my decks for the format. One of the things about the current format is that I'm trying my best to play 40 card decks with a very specific ratios, and like I'm trying to simplify my game plan for a lot of decks and build my decks in a way that rather than trying to do everything at once, I'm trying to do like a specific one or two things and just do them really, really well and do them in as many situations as possible. So also this deck profile is not going to be functioning the same way as usual. Um, I'm going to more so be going over like different parts of the deck and more so talking about the card rolls as opposed to just going monster spells and traps. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get right into the deck profile. And like I said, I'll be going over like more card rolls. So starting things off, we're going to talk about like these are engine requirements. They're not starters, they're not extenders or anything like that. They're just engine requirements. You have to play them in order to use other cards in the deck. So for rockets, I'm just playing the not two copies, but one recharge of one Magna Rocket because I don't have a second recharger. Sometimes the attack stat on this does come up because like with the field spell, it's 2100 and it can hit over some awkward situations. But yeah, just playing them because you need engine requirements. You need your engine to be able for other cards to function in the deck. Um, and then we have our starters. These are cards that, they're your normal summons. They can only really start your plays. They're not really like if you have multiple of these in your hand, you can't do anything with like multiple copies because, they're normal summons. So these are your starters. I'm playing 3 copies of Black Metal Dragon. I think Black Metal Dragon is the best starter for Dragon Link right now, especially in a format where everyone's maining Droll. Black Metal Dragon allows you to make seal even if you get drolled. And it similarly can extend your ceiling really, really high. It's really good as a 1 card seal. It's probably one of the best ones we have. So yeah, so 3 Black Metal Dragon, 2 copies of Rocket Tracer. This one isn't necessarily just an engine requirement because it is an actual starter. You can build board presence and interruption with this card just by itself, because you can normal summon it, do the Striker Dragon line, and then end on a Broiled Savage Dragon. So yeah, that's one of the things I like about Tracer. I'm only playing 2 because I'm not trying to play too many normal summons. And then we have the 1 copy of Starlead Safer. Um, I like I do play the 1 copy of it because it has some interactions with other cards in the deck. But as a starter for a 1 card sealed line, I just simply like the Black Metal Dragon better because it plays better into Droll. And it also loses less to hand traps, I guess. Because, if you normal Black Metal and link it off and then like you get ashed or something, right? Or like the Black Metal search gets stopped in some way, you still have a monster on board. Whereas if you normal Safer and use the effect and it gets ashed, then you have no monster on board and you're in a much worse position. Um, so that is going to be it for the cards in the deck that are pure starters, like, they're normal summons. You don't want to draw too many of these. You typically only want to draw one at a time. Starlead Safered, it does have that extra utility with, it can search a lot more things, but I opted not to play it simply because of, rather play multiple copies of it because, I don't want to play too many normal summons in my deck. And as far as like 1 card starters go, Safered is kind of one of the, it's simultaneous, like it's good because of its versatility, but it's bad because of like how bad it is when it gets stopped. And then we have the one copy of the Bestial Lubellion. Um, this is one of the things that where Safer it has the benefit where it can add this to your hand from the graveyard. If you open this, you know, you can pitch it, get a Bestial. But the main reason you play is because it can activate certain cards directly from, well, it doesn't even activate them, it just places them on the board. So it plays around things like Anti-Spell Fragrance. But yeah, just play one copy of it. You don't really want to see multiple copies of it, and you have so much access to it because you can get it from the grave, you can get it through searching it. So yeah, just one was fine. And then now we're moving on to a different category of card. I guess this isn't, you know, this isn't a starter. This is, we're already in the next category card, but these are cards that I would consider extenders. These are cards that can only really allow you to play with them, and they do advance your game state. They do like propel your ceiling, but they can only do so from a specific point. They can only do anything relevant once you've already reached a certain point. Lubellion fits that category because even though like you can start your turn with Lubellion, it doesn't actually do anything by itself. If you are activating a copy of Lubellion, you have to have other cards for it to do anything meaningful. Sure, it gets a Bestial to your hand, but like that doesn't really do all that much. And then next up, we're going to have the one copy of Dragoonity Armogram. This is one of my favorite dragon cards for the last, it's been a minute now, actually. I started playing it a lot around like Ishizu tier format, and it's been one of my favorite cards to play in Dragon Link ever since. Just having a 2900 body that you could special summon with its own effect, and it can just keep coming back every single turn. It has a negation effect, so you can force out negates. It helps you play through boards. It helps with the grind game. Helps you play through interruption. It's an extender. It's just, it really is just a power crap dragon ruler a lot of the time. And sometimes, you know, being able to like hit over in a monster, your opponent's monster, and then equip it so they don't have it in the grave. This can actually be very relevant in some matchups too. Even if that's probably like the least relevant part of the effect. But yeah, at the end of the day, it is like, you know, purely an extender. You need to have the fodder to banish in order to summon it. Um, so it is, you know, purely extender, but just because something extended doesn't mean it's necessarily bad to play. But continuing on with extenders, you know, we play the one black dragon Collapse Serpent and the one white dragon Wyver Burster. You know, baby Chaos Dragons, very much staples in Dragon Link. One copy of Abster Router Dragon. Again, this is a card that doesn't actually do anything by itself. In order for you to summon it, you need to have a rocket on board. And it does, you know, having it in the deck does raise the ceiling, but, you know, it's not something you want to see by itself. Two copies of Bestial Magnamut. These are the only hand trap Bestials that I'm main decking. There's a lot of decks in the format that just simply aren't affected by Bestials, so I don't want to be playing a bunch of them. But having them in the deck in some capacity is still really good. But the main thing about Magnamut is that you're not necessarily even using it as a hand trap a lot of the time. For the most part, you're using it to summon off of Hieratic Seal to get your follow-up and then just like continuing your engine and like giving yourself a really strong grind game. And then I'm actually playing two copies of Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon. One of the most powerful dragon cards to ever be released in the game. Then I'm playing triple copies of Noctivision Dragon. I want to see this card, you know. I want to see this card. It's one of the best extenders in the deck. Being able to like chain block so much of your stuff while also giving you the fodder to make it like your Link 2s, while also like drawing you deeper into your deck. It's that one of the things about this list that I like a lot is that it plays well into draw, but if you don't get draw, it just, you know, it's still very, very difficult for your opponent to like deal with what you're doing because you just generate so much advantage otherwise. And one thing about this, you know, style of deck is that basically if you get draw, you just kind of change your plays rather than being completely cut off and being able to build a board. And a lot of that is due to the fact that Noctivision it's a free extender, and the ability to protect set cards actually does come up sometimes in regards to like back row. And then on to like continuing on with like, you know, extenders, we have the one copy of Branded Regain. This is the thing you're going to be picking up off of the Lubellion. there was a previous list where I was just playing Regame because it is a really, really crazy extender to have. Being able to just keep summoning back Magnemute turn after turn is really, really strong, and continuously getting follow up. Being able to keep putting back banished cards and drawing cards off of it is really strong. Against Runic, I actually turboed into this card because it put me in a situation where every time they use one of their Runic effects and they would banish the top card of my deck, if it was a lighter dark monster, I could just put it right back and not actually lose out on anything. And that was something that I really enjoyed. And then you got the one boot sector launch. This card is, it's an extender, but it's only really an extender if you have rockets in your hand. It's not actually a brick. Like, just because you can search something and you would prefer to search something doesn't actually mean it's a brick. One of the things that I've noticed about a lot of Dragon players that I've talked to is that, like, there have been situations where they'll have a crazy hand and then they'll be like, ah, man, I had a bad hand. And then, like, the bad hand was just that they, like, drew a card that they wanted to search or something. And it's just like, but that card is good. That's why you are always trying to search it, is because it is a good card. It's like you go slightly less plus on your combo, but you can still do your combo that wins you the game. Being able to just randomly special a bunch of monsters to the board is really strong. The soul charge effect, that where you can special a bunch of rockets from the grave, is really strong. So this is absolutely a really good card, and yeah, that's going to be it on that. We're going to move over to the next category of card in regards to the engine core of the deck. And these are cards that I consider to be both starters and extenders. These are cards that, like, so for context, when I'm talking about something being a starter, it has to be something that by itself, if you resolve this card and, like, you're uninterrupted, you will be able to end on board presence and interaction. Ideally, you would also have follow up as well. But certain cards like Black Metal Dragon, if you have multiple, you can't, like, normal summon a second time in most cases. But these are cards that serve as both starters and extenders because you can start your turn off with them, but you can also use them to extend your plays further, because these are, they don't follow the restriction of you being only able to normal summon once. So we have Dragon Ravine. In a similar way that, like, Rocket Tracer can get you to this line, this card gets you to Rocket Tracer. But also, if you already have Rocket Tracer, it gets you to Lubellion, it gets you to Armogram. Like, it's an extender as well. Same thing with Foolish Burial, and same thing with Dragon Shrine, because they serve the same purpose. And then you have 3 copies of Quick Launch. This is basically the situation with Rocket Tracer, except this doesn't use your normal summon. So it's not once per turn, so you can just fire off 3 Quick Launch and get 3 rockets on board. Ideally, you wouldn't really do that, but, like, just the fact that it's the same access but without using your normal summon. Then we have 3 copies of Chaos Space. This can get you to your baby Chaos Dragons without using your normal summon, or it gets you to Lubellion, which gets you to Bestials and whatever, so it can extend you further. The graveyard effect to banish and put back your Striker Dragon and stuff is really good. One thing I will say about this format, though, that I've kind of felt kind of iffy about it, I would still play it, absolutely, but it's just, like, there has been a weakness that I've noticed, is that in a format where everyone's playing Droll, if you start your turn off with Chaos Space, you end on nothing a lot of the time, unless you have, like, extenders in hand already to be able to build a board after getting Drolled, because unlike with Black Metal, if you get Drolled after this, you can't actually make Hieratic Seal off of just this. Because you can't add off the other baby Chaos Dragon. It's just, that is definitely one of the weaknesses of this card that I have noticed this format. So that's going to be it for the core of the deck. So basically, like, the deck and the engine and all that. The rest of the deck is going to be, like, utility cards, and I wanted to make sure that I separated the two. Because one of the things I've noticed is that when talking about, my decks in my comment section, a lot of the time, I'll have people, wondering, like, oh, can I play this deck if I don't have this card? And the card will have nothing to do with the deck core. It'll just be some, utility card that's, like, good, but, like, you don't really need utility cards for a deck core to function. But yeah, moving on to the utility cards, I decided to change up my utility cards in my side deck because the format has gotten very, very diverse. and I wanted something that covered a large amount of matchups while still having cards that are impactful in each matchup while not really. Basically, I didn't want to have like dead cards. I didn't want to go into a matchup and be like, wow, I don't have anything to side, and I have a bunch of cards that like don't actually do anything, you know? Um, but yeah, I'm playing 3 copies of Forbidden Droplet. This card has always been very, very exceptional. Yeah, Cash Tira does make this card a lot worse, but that's only specifically if you're dealing with a Rise Heart. And there's other stuff that you're playing that will help you to deal with that. And just in general, it's like outside of that matchup, outside of, dealing with Macrocosmos, this is one of the best cards to ever be printed. So in every other matchup, it's going to be exceptionally strong. There have been so many matchups this format where I've played it against someone and people will be like, oh man, why are you playing that? What about Kashtira? And it's just like, you're not playing Kashtira, you know? And just, being unable to respond, being able to use it to like dodge effects. Like there's just so much utility with this card. Even in like control matchups, this card can have value sometimes because being able to like drop the attack of the opponent's monster, so you can suddenly have the biggest monster on the board in a simplified game state. It's just this card is so good and so versatile. And then moving on with, the card of the format, we got 3 copies of Droll and Lockbird that I'm maining. Yeah, there's not much to say about it. It hits a lot of the decks in the format really, really hard. And, 3 Droll is one of the things that I've noticed is a staple in everyone's decks right now. And then I'm playing 2 copies of Ash Blossom and Joy Spring. It's not super high impact against a lot of matchups, but it just hits every matchup. And against the matchups where like Droll and Droplet wouldn't be super crazy, Ash is usually game winning against those matchups, weirdly enough. And just in general, I like having the matchup coverage that Ash Blossom brings. And then the last utility card I'm playing 1 copy of Heavenly Zephyr Miradora. So one thing about this card is the main reason that I'm playing it is that it is a dragon, and being a dragon, you're able to search it off of Magna Mode. So yeah, just it allows you to have a wide variety of matchup coverage. And Heavenly Zephyr Miradora is actually not bad. I actually have liked, being able to access it because being able to just shut down one of your opponent's monsters, and it's really strong. And there's a lot of people who have read the card and then like they kind of forgot about it because they just kind of skimmed to the card because they more so want to see like what does it do and not focus on necessarily how does it do it. There have been several times where people have read the card, gone, okay, so it turns off one of my monsters, and then they'll see me activate it, and then they'll like use a negate on it, and they'll be like, cool, and then I'll remind them of the first line of text on the card, which is that it can't be negated. This doesn't mean that you can't activate your negate effect. It just means that your negate doesn't negate the card. So if they have a Baron that, they summon their Baron, and then I go Miradora effect, and they go Baron negate, I go cool, and then I summon Miradora, and I turn off something else. Or, sometimes I'll still turn off the Baron because, Baron has a pop effect as well that's really good. Or like, maybe they have like an Appaloosa, and I'll turn off the Baron, and, I'll have the Miradora in attack position, and all of a sudden the Miradora by itself has dealt with the super heavy Samurai board. Or like, being able to hit over a spell canceller. It's just like Miradora has been really good. The general application of the card is very limited. I guess, hold on, let me. The general application of the card is very limited, but one of the things about Miradora is just the fact that it's searchable really, really lends itself to what makes the card so valuable in the deck. Similar to like the Bestials. It's like you wouldn't necessarily play as many Bestials in most decks as a lot of Dragon Link decks do, but the fact that the Bestials are all dragons is really good. And, even with this card, you can use this to make Hieratic Seal. So that's going to be it for the main deck. It is a 40 card deck. Like I said, I wanted to try and build as consistent decks as possible in order to do like, 1 or 2 things as consistently and as effectively as possible. So yeah, moving on to the extra deck. One of the things that I have made a change is that, like I said, I'm focusing on more of the mid-rangey style of Dragon Link as opposed to focusing on this big Wombo combo deck. Because, everyone's playing 3 Droll. And a lot of people are also maining Nibiru. So it's like playing a deck that plays into that is very, very detrimental a lot of the time, I've noticed. So, to start things off, very standard stuff. I'm playing one Striker Dragon. I'm actually playing two copies of Guard Dragon Pisty. This is one of the things that is a bit different from most Dragon Link builds I've noticed. Most Dragon Link builds are only playing one. I'm playing two because I like having another Link 1 that I can utilize to, go into like one card sale off of like a Black Metal Dragon or something. And also just having, having two allows me to use a Link 1 to go into Hieratic Seal if, I've already used my Pisty for like the Borderland combo or something like that. The one Romulus, two copies of Hieratic Seal. There have actually been times where I've wanted a third Hieratic Seal, but two is good. You can recycle it. But yeah, there are definitely times where I feel like playing a third Hieratic Seal. The one copy of Dark the Dark Charmer. This card's really good. One IP, one Unicorn. Triple burst is necessary for the Borderland combo. Obviously, Borderland itself. The one copy of Underworld Goddess. This outs a lot of weird things. There's Psychic End Punisher. There's the Pearly Towers thing. Adignister ends on the arrival Cyber. Some Mathmech builds are ending on it too. So just having Underworld Goddess to link off stuff is really, really good. One copy of Savage, one copy of Scarlight Red Dragon Archfiend, and then one copy of Baron de Fleur. Yeah, very, 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 very standard Dragon Link extra deck. There's not really anything spicy in the deck. It's just very much a standard, Dragon Link deck that's just adapted to the current format. I'm not really playing any new card. Well, actually, that's not true. I'm playing one new card in the side deck. But for the most part, it's just, standard Dragon Link, but with the utility cards adjusted for the current format. Moving on to the side deck, everybody knows what the first card is. It's always going to be Pankratops. Then I'm citing two copies of Nibiru, two copies of Ghost Spell, triple Dogwood, and one copy of Druid Worm. I've been citing, a lot of people have been citing Bystials this format. I do think citing Bystials is very good this format. I'm only citing one Druid Worm in my, I'm only playing one Druid Worm on the side because I'm, maining two Magnamut. So I don't really need as many Bystials on the side. I do still want to play one, simply because I like the utility that they bring. Three copies of Cosmic Cyclone. This is probably the most versatile out to the macro decks, being able to banish, gets around a lot of the protection, gets around Heavenly Prison. In Runic, it's really impactful to get rid of the field spell because they can't protect it. Yeah, and then I'm playing two copies of Evenly Matched. I would play three, but I just simply didn't have the room. I wanted to also maintain my matchup coverage. Evenly still really good, so two is good. And then lastly, this is the new card that I'm playing. I'm playing the one Etude of the Branded. Macro Cosmos is pretty strong, especially when it's searchable. So against certain matchups, I'll turbo into this off of Lubellion effect. And then because, the deck can just turbo out Bystials off of Hieratic Shield effect, you can get them in hand and everything. A lot of times the opponent will just have to deal with this card. Against Super Heavy Samurai, one of the players I played against, I summoned the Magnamut off of Hieratic Seal, activated the effect, then they curry card to get rid of it, and I just summoned another one from hand, and they had to play under the macro, and they just weren't able to deal with it. And also, the quick synchro effect isn't really relevant a lot of the time, but sometimes it can come up and you can just randomly throw a Baron onto the board. If you notice okay, they're going to deal with the Etude, or maybe they have the out for the card, then it's just okay, cool, chain, make Baron, and now they're just okay, here's another random interruption that I have to deal with. But yeah, that's going to be it for the deck profile. Like I said, this one was going to be focused a bit more on the aspect of deck building and the deck roll, the card rolls and things like that, as opposed to just being a usual deck profile. The deck list has performed very, very well. The Kashtira matchup is obviously your hardest matchup, but it's outside of that, I've won pretty much every match I've played with the deck. I have mixed feelings about the deck. It's it plays really well into draw, but the fact that everyone's maining draw is still very detrimental. And as I mentioned earlier, there is that weakness to Chaos Space. I don't know. I probably will keep playing the deck simply because I enjoy the deck so much. But I might make some changes and, go from there. On topics of cards that I didn't play, Malevolent Chaos Emperor, and the Gamma package. So Legionnaire and Chaos Emperor were cut because I was trying to play 40 cards and really like stick to 40 cards. And when I'm trying to like trim down the deck, I have to look at what cards and like really, evaluate the value of certain cards and like how strong they are, what they do for the deck, and really go over like how impactful they actually are. Chaos Emperor is absolutely an exceptional card. And honestly, there are times where I consider just going above 40 to play it because it is really that strong of a card. But it's just, I opted to play, a 40 card list and I didn't really miss it a lot of the time. It's one of those things where it's just like every time you have it and you use it, it's good, but you don't really feel its absence like that, right? It's like there hasn't been a time where I've been like, dang, because I'm not playing the Chaos Emperor, I'm going to lose the game. It's more so just like a nice bonus to have. And then like same thing with Legionnaire. It's very similar thing. It's a very powerful card, nice to have, but it doesn't really feel like it's necessary for the deck to function. So that's why those two cards ended up getting cut. With the Gamma package, it's an exceptional card, especially when everyone's maining draw and they're trying to like draw you out of the game. One thing though is that at least in my region, a lot of the good players are not playing into Gamma. They're just gonna wait for you to put a monster on board, and then they'll use their monster-based hand trap, or they'll just imperm you, so it won't even matter. You know. So yeah, it's like Gamma is very, very good, I would say, and I really do like the interaction of being able to turn a Gamma into an XL Synchro Stardust Dragon and then turn that into Baron, because that is something I was playing in a previous list as well. But it's just Gamma sits in my hand being dead far too often for me to feel like it's a card that I should be playing. I'd rather just have, I'd rather be able to consistently do something than to be able to do something that's like really strong, because the things I can consistently do are also going to be strong. I'd rather play something that's just consistently strong than play something that's really strong, but it's only strong sometimes. But yeah, that's going to be it with this video. This bit of I don't know how it ended up so long, but it's because I ramble a lot. But if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment, and share it with your friends. If you want to get early access to the videos, alongside with having access to the Discord where I discuss my deck building process, because the Discord is actually where the discussion was had that I came up with these utility cards. The Patreon link is in the description and in the pinned comment. This has been Arim from HaltessiaGaming. Thank you very much for watching, and have a wonderful day. And now we see the true thing. I actually have a new button, so we're going to see if this button works a little bit better.